Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds.
Wednesday morning, coffee and cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, alongside Damon Benning, who looks very sharp today in the maroon vest.
I just wanted to match you. I'm thinking.
You knew it.
I'm thinking if we go any sort of Mississippi State, if we get any sort of crimson, I want to be part of the team, man.
You're always a part of the team.
No, well, you just got into my head, my old medulla oblongata 15 minutes before the show telling me I put too much faith in society. So now I'm kind of
I just like to make you think.
I'm kind of in my feels a little bit.
Hey, and I'm with you.
So at the end of the day, I'm like, man, do I? No, but I
think a lot of people do.
Bro,
it's not just you.
I genuinely,
I put a lot of faith in society too.
I cheer for people, and it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's at my own expense, and I get it, and it makes some people close to me not happy with me, But like I generally cheer for.
And at the end of the day, you have to be happy with yourself and how you carry yourself in life.
And you know what? At the end of the day, I just think the better everybody, even if I don't agree with them, or there's very few people I dislike, I'd say I dislike, but even if I don't like you, like, hey, man, as long as you're not hurting anyone or being disrespectful, like, we can disagree and go, like, I don't know if I'm going to cheer for you, but I'm certainly not going to want your demise, which is why I don't need a pound of flesh, right? It's just, I don't. There'll be very, very few times where you'll see me just actually outright disparage people. And they could have actually done wrong. It's just not my style. And I'm not critiquing other people if they do, hey, coach did this or player did this or, man, my coworker did this. Like, I just somewhere along the way, and I think it's from being at bottom once. Like, yeah, I was super humbled. Going through my divorce, and so it didn't change it, like it kind of heightened what was hiding in me in terms of like kind of being other-centered, that I just don't like. I just want to see people do well, because I don't want anybody feeling like I felt during those 2 years, right? So it's like
nobody likes to sit back and kind of dwell in negativity. And that's
some people do.
Some people
thrive.
Which
is very strange.
Some people thrive like it's almost lighter fluid to them. It helps them grow. It helps them sustain their views in life, which is great. Yeah. Perspective is everything.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Whatever you want to say, live your life. Right. But for me, and you talk about style. My style is to just kind of like block out the things that I can't control. And control what you
my
can
coach
control.
would like to say, Coach Lamanji's line, it should be on a T-shirt, control the controllables. And every time a player would bring something to him, and he'd simply say, are you controlling the controllables? And I'm just like, oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Where this birth, people are like, man, what's going on? And welcome to the show, Coffee and Cream in the Morning. You can get at us at 888-678-4768, right?
4876.
888.
638 4876.
4876.
I think I got that right.
4876.
Yes.
I'm just going to remember.
You were close. I think you
4876.
flip-flopped the 7 and 8.
4876. But you can't be wrong because there's no margin of error.
I know how to tell.
I was just one off. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is not horseshoes or hand grenades.
I just was, and I understand, especially over like the 11 or whatever years I've been doing this and however many thousands of followers, right? You're going to have some people that don't agree with you or that's not even taking shots because it's not personal, but I know people, like I genuinely, what'd you tell me? I put too much faith.
You put too much faith in society.
Yeah. So I generally don't want to, like I'm not trying to be, we can have conversations, but I don't want to be combative, right? And if I am, I'll pick and choose my spots. Like when people tell me how I should think, that's probably going to stir something up in me. Or if you don't have if you don't ask the backstory or like context and you are aggressive, that may. But for the most part, like if you disagree, like on, sports or, you don't like a player I do or food take or, politics or whatever, like
You know what I normally do?
I'm cool because I'm probably going to glean something from it. I just don't understand like the vitriol.
I normally just ask questions to get my point across. Because if they're talking most of the time, no matter where you rest on a certain subject, if they're talking and I just keep asking questions, at some point they're going to overthink what they're talking about and then tend to agree with a side that maybe you're leaning toward because all you did was ask questions. Yeah. But you get them to kind of dig deeper into a subject, and then the perspective, I think, opens up. Now they can kind of see both windows. Like I can see through this one and I can see through that one.
And Twitter and social media is such a powerful sports medium now with like information and opinions and getting it disseminated. It's like you have to understand what you're dealing with. But sometimes, like every now and again, a couple times a month, I'll give the collective sigh, like, wow, you're just gonna get that point across regardless. Like so I always go back, and it's how I coach, like the family and like people around me. Sometimes I just wish people would like listen or read to understand versus listening or reading to reply. If we could just move past that, I think it's like Rodney King, sweet Jesus, can we all just get along? So I just like, especially with so many hot button like sports topics or world topics or whatever, like this whole World Cup thing and journalists and deaths, unfortunately, and it's such strong opinions, and people will talk about a couple of journalists, and then it gets into what particular countries believe and why folks are at odds with what happened. And I'm all
about education.
People lost their lives. Like, are we really drilling down into that?
Mm-hmm. I'm all about education and knowing what's going on in the world, but don't make me feel like I'm either dumb or stupid or whatever because I was negligent of it before you told me. Right? That's kind of how I look at things.
That's a funny. I dig it. It's
who's really good about presenting information, or was really good about presenting information?
Who's that?
Mike Leach.
Yeah.
Mike Leach was a phenomenal character.
Well, he was just a storyteller who kind of could tell stories by taking himself out of the equation and making it feel like.
But he was so smart too because he had the background that made him what he was. Mean, when you go,
I'm matching.
Yeah, we went all black and maroon
Is that close
today.
enough? Kinda, and it wasn't planned.
No.
I didn't know what you were rocking.
Well, you know me. I'm wearing a hat of some kind.
Yeah, is that kind of your shtick? I have roughly, I don't know, 130, 140 hats.
And you don't wear one.
No, I have a great long box. It's long.
You probably have some pretty sweet old hats in there.
I do. There's a couple that I looked at the other day because, moving and now that we're in the district and stuff, I'm just trying to like settle in, so I was getting rid of the old.
Did you recently move?
Yeah, we've moved in August. It's right.
Wow,
Yeah.
that was quick.
Yeah.
I thought you've been there for a long time.
Oh no.
But I guess when you changed.
I've only been there
when you changed districts. You said.
Yeah, 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Fresh.
I don't know.
That's why I'm still. That's why I'm
it's
still
so funny.
That's why I'm still figuring out what's on this side of town because I know you're not super familiar with Omaha, but I've never lived south of 4th Street. I lived on Grover for a year and a half in '99.
Never ever.
When I was trying to get another football job after I got cut in Carolina and Washington, and so I was kind of transient, right? As in an apartment, and I liked Grover Street. It's like 72nd and Grover. It was cool because I was by the interstate. But that's the only time for a little short snippet. For the 80% of my adult life, I've been north of Maple. So I'm finding things over here that I didn't even.
Yeah, it's a whole new landmark for me too. I mean, if you could identify anything, it's like you know how the world was created, like it was Pangea and then it broke apart. And you know what Pangea is?
Yeah,
TV?
Pangea was all the continents. I like history. And I would be a good game show partner for you for like history.
Say less. Do you think we could be really good at password, the game password?
Yeah. I like stuff like that. And it's
Maybe we'll try it on this show at some point.
I don't know. You start finishing my sentences and we're done.
Pangea, wasn't that the
Here we go.
wasn't that the planet Avatar was on?
Oh. Wow.
I wish Shane was on camera because you can tell everything about him by the way he rolls his eyes after he says something.
And I was when I got home last night because I double dipped. I watched Millard North girls, and Millard West, and I went to watch boys West Side and Millard South just to see the kiddos. I got home, and lo and behold, what was on late night was some deal on Channel 7 about Avatar.
Well, they're making a new Avatar movie.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's a new one coming out here.
He has
relatively
very
soon.
strong takes on. Do you remember
On blue people?
on our former life where we couldn't figure out what all the fuss was with the original Avatar? It won all these awards, and I think, Shane, if I remember correctly, in your 30-minute meltdown about overrated, underrated, it was basically just is it digital? What do you call special effects? Or
I have a soft spot in my heart for the movie Avatar.
Here we go.
Very soft. I mean, I've got my hand over my heart right now.
You are soft.
I'm very soft. Back a week or two before the original movie came out, I was on a show called Schick and Nick on some other station here in town. You guys might have heard of Schick and Nick.
Who are those guys?
Matt Schick, Nick Baugh.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep, I know
And
those
we
people.
we
Is his
had
middle name Alan?
Nicholas Allen Baugh, Matt Allen Schick, yes.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
And we had a guest on, and the guys were looking at me going, why are we having this guy on? Well, a week or two later, a movie came out that he had directed called Avatar, so we had James Cameron on, like right before the movie came out.
This is real, by the way.
And you didn't let them know?
No, they knew.
Oh, okay.
But they were
story.
But they
Got
were
it.
like, why are we having this on? And then when they got done, they were like, we just had like one of the greatest directors of all time. We just talked to this guy for like 20 minutes while he was editing the movie.
That's sweet.
Putting-
Hold
putting-
on. Let me get this fight scene done.
Putting finishing touches on it.
So I knew when you said that, I was like, I wanted to see what he because Avatar is kind of a buzz thing. But yeah, that was That was on last night.
And I also have another soft heart in my heart for the Smurfs because I'm kind of like Hefty Smurf. So,
Well, you like blue people.
Yeah.
So you like sad and somber people in our world.
Yeah.
All the blues.
landing the plane. Landing the plane. Back
Not
to
this,
social media.
not
Favorite hockey team?
no.
St. Louis Blues.
No, his favorite hockey
Just
team
when they lose to the
is
Avalanche.
just to the west. Hey, are you disappointed in their start?
What, their JV team that's out there right
yeah,
now?
they are pretty banged up.
Well, I mean that's a standard start for coming off of a championship, isn't it? I mean, unless you're like Tampa Bay. I mean, you don't really. There's not really teams that are.
No, you look at that team up and down last year, and I know they lost Kadri and some other
Right.
pieces like Burakovsky went to
They're still loaded.
Seattle,
But they're just not
are.
healthy.
They are immensely loaded.
Yeah.
Now Mac was hurt a lot last year too, so I'm kind of wondering what his longevity is going to be like in the NHL.
Hey, how about this though? What was this open? Is this like?
I know we kind of got
No, it's cool
we kinda
because
got way
I
out of
think here's the deal though. The more we get into this, like I think people, what I hope listeners appreciate is it doesn't matter what it is. If you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, 100%.
We'll try to show you some range.
638
4768.
4876. Actually,
If it makes it easier, the
You
last.
know what it is? It's McCook and the Spirit of Philadelphia, because it's 48 County on the license plate. It's McCook, and it's 76. The Spirit of 76.
so you should get it right then. It's
I'll-
4876.
Listen, I'll never miss it again.
Oh, there you go.
Watch. That's how my
Write
mind,
that down, Shane.
That's how my mind works.
Yeah.
I was going to say if it makes it easier, it could be 888-638-HVRN.
Yeah, that makes it a little more difficult for me.
HVRN.
I'm just trying to help you out. I'm just HBOing.
Like a bobblehead
Yeah.
bouncing up and down. No, you're right. I mean, it provides a genuine side to the show. Maybe an escape. That's kind of how I love to look at sports, is kind of my escape from the outside world. And you come here and you just get, you get good conversation. And I want people to call in. Call that number, 888-638-4876. We'd love to have you on. We'd love to talk.
The Incredibles.
If you are on the YouTube right now, our tripod for a cell phone.
Is my suit?
Super suit.
Stickler.
Come on, man. Get it right. The Incredibles.
I understand.
That was great. It wasn't incredible, but it was great.
It's a good movie. It's a good
The
movie.
movie was great. I meant your quoting of the line.
Oh,
was just
sorry.
great.
My bad.
Yeah,
Hey,
not incredible.
So, how flooded was your Twitter timeline yesterday with Mike Leach? How about ESPN
In such a great way.
turning it around
way.
immediately with the tribute to Mike Leach?
You know what that is? Because I've been there before. You know what that is? They had that already.
Canned, yeah.
Canned.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had it built. And there are, no matter what icon it is, and I'm not going to say a name because I'm not going to get called on.
Speak it into existence.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the guy that says, "Hey, you did this."
I can think of a few.
You did this,
I can think of
and
a
I
few.
can think of a few too. But if you just take on any random name and you're like, "Hey, this person not doing so hot right now,"
That's
and
an
whether
aha. That's an aha moment.
and
Take-
whether it's a
take on
long
me.
term, it is take on me.
Did you
or-
do cartoons in pen and pencil and you flip the pages?
That's one of the best music videos.
Oh my gosh.
It's so cool.
You could have something in the can, and it doesn't have
your
to.
guy.
It doesn't have to be in relationship to a death. I mean, it could be. You could have something in the can, thinking something positive is going to
Yeah,
happen.
more often than not, though, it's hey, we're going to release this right when it happens. And when Mike Leach had all of his health issues take place, and they realized the seriousness behind it, somebody was working on that all night,
Dude, they
finding
had-
some way to compile that.
They had like
And it wasn't just them; it was the SEC network too.
How
It was
Mummy.
everybody.
So do you remember, and maybe he's better than some think, right? When you drill down into the numbers. But was he a better story than he was a coach, or was he like a really good coach too?
I think
Because his story,
his story outweighs his coaching, but his story is all about his coaching. Does that make sense? Like it's all in connection to one another. But the story itself, he's able to relate to so many people because he provided not only humor to whether it was a press conference, a post-game interview, halftime interview.
Did you watch those snippets of him like doing drills, like trying to show people how to?
Yes. And I actually thought about this because I'm
just
like,
wondered,
you're
like,
not even
as-
getting down and like shucking. You're just like, hey, when you're on the left, you move to the right.
As a
like a
player,
robot.
I just wonder how I would feel about that. Yeah, you're like.
But because of his mind, his motions never corresponded to what was in his head.
Because he was such a higher level thinker.
And you would probably overly appreciate playing for a guy like him.
I wonder. But so.
What about T.O.? Was T.O. a little bit like that, or could he?
Yeah, he didn't demo a ton of things. And when he did, I was like, oh, that doesn't look good. But you were really good, so let's just go with it.
And because of his track record and success, that plays more. That's what he's wearing on his shoulders.
Do you think as a player, I wonder, man, I wonder what players think. Does your coach have to have done it for you to be all in, or is it the level of connectivity that they have in telling you what it is that you need to do? I always wondered that, just because I've always played for
The best coaches are able to do both.
people that have done it, and it's varying degrees. I'm not saying they had to be good, but I think, as I think about this out loud, I think it's more about, and I think Paul Johnson, I think Mike Leach in particular, I think it's more about your ability to connect with people, because I think good leaders you gravitate towards because it's them and your relationship with them telling you, not because of anything else. I think. Right? But that's kind of that's a whole nother, I think, topic. But do you have to have experience doing it at that level, or do you have to be? Is it more about the communication? The easy answer is probably both. But if you had to take it or
If you had to
leave it,
take one, I think it's more.
because players loved Coach Leach, but he was so different.
Which is what made him so likable. So if it came down to communication, or if it came down, what was the other one you presented?
Like
just
just
doing it.
having done it.
Yep.
Because like let's look at Deion, for instance. A lot of Deion's prowess is because of his accomplishments, but he sprinkles it in with his delivery, and it's like, huh. Conversely, you take a look at a guy like Matt Rule, who's very experienced in terms of
This is
what
hard
he's
because-
done, but his delivery is different.
I'm mapping it out in my head, and I'm thinking, okay, would I rather have the guy that communicates most likely would turn that into what's being done? But you could say anything. Like, you could be the best public speaker, but be one of the worst at what you do.
But why is it that professional athletes, a lot of times when they go into coaching, sometimes struggle? Because it's their lack of connectivity that I think is
You're 100% on the
the
nose.
barrier, even though the player's like, oh, man, he or she's done this before.
But they haven't coached,
I'm listening.
Right? So they've played, but they haven't coached.
So maybe it is about, again, I know the safe answer is probably both, but I don't know, man.
It may lean more communication.
I do know players
In
that are more willing to endure what a coach is telling them, even if they don't like it, because he or she has had success before.
Yeah, if you put Nick Saban anywhere just today and say his communication was horrible, but he's been able to do it.
And he can't demo a drill either, right?
Right,
So
but he's
you're-
been able to do it. It's easy to appeal to somebody to say, like, hey, we'll win national championships here because he's been doing it over and over and over again, time after time. But if he had communication and you weren't winning national championships, think about how you develop as a player, as a person, just because you played for that that coach.
So technically, you should be all in on like, let's say, for instance, Matt Rule,
I should be,
because he's done it before.
but he's kind of done a little bit of both, right? But you're right when you say his approach is so vastly different than other coaches, and that is because, well, he's a great coach, you're like a great speaker, but he also is a rebuilder. He works from the bottom up. He doesn't just hop in to a good situation.
Is it experience, communicate? I don't know if you had to take. What's our poll question? 888-638.
You know what?
48-76.
Our poll question's based on morning dump yesterday.
Oh, talk to me. What do we got?
It was, do you acknowledge half birthdays?
Oh, Foz.
We
No,
talked that we were
that's
gonna do
actually
that.
that's actually interesting though, because I am curious.
Yeah,
But tomorrow, the next poll question is going to be from today.
from a coaching instance.
Yeah, 888-638-4876. Fantastic show today. Coming up, we'll set the lineup.
Yep, next here on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
You know, Pitt State girls would come out, everybody cheer. So then when the opposing team came out, they'd get this thing stoked up and they'd play Welcome to the Jungle, full blast. And then they throw bananas out of the stands at the opponent as they're coming on the field. I mean, it was just fantastic. And Guns N' Roses would just be blaring Welcome to the Jungle.
I mean, just an absolute national treasure was Mike Leach. I mean, the stuff that went through that guy's mind, he is the epitome of somebody that doesn't have a filter. Yeah. But when I say doesn't have a filter, it's not in a negative context, or he's not just out there throwing F-bomb this or another curse word that. He's just out there speaking what's on his mind. He reminds me of somebody that has the mind of, my niece, right? Like my 2-year-old
the little 2-year-old that I was watching rocking us on
he'll just rattle
couch.
Whatever's off his head. And, he's an experienced guy. Mike Leach was a huge
Would he say
experienced guy.
Anaru?
Awu.
Awu.
She can't get the
I don't
NDR.
I think old Coach Leach would have been like, Andrew? The candy corn?
Hey, shout out to Clara. She's probably watching us right now, so we'll give Clara a nice wave.
What's up, princess?
She is a cutie. Tim's on line one. I want to bring Tim onto the show because he has a nice Mike Leach comparison for us.
Tim, good morning. What's up?
I'm a little offended I didn't also get called cutie. You guys can try again next time. When you talk comparisons, when you talk about coaching, when you talk about experience versus communication, there's so many ties through life. But to me, you always go back to the best. And the best example I have being in Nebraska is, tell me about John Cook's professional volleyball career that he had that led him to be AVCA coach multiple times, national championships, all of this stuff. I mean, just the fact that he was trusted to succeed Terry Pettit. Apparently, Terry Pettit didn't give a crap that John Cook never played women's volleyball. So I think when you're looking at it, you're right. The easy answer is both. But as a youth coach, I don't care if a guy's done it or if a gal's done it. Can you communicate it?
There it is.
Because my 9-year-old, I've always said, is dumb enough to be really good at softball. She's never going to be able to coach it. She's probably not going to be able to communicate it. But she can sure as heck go out and do it. So that's where I would fall. I'll hang up and listen to your feedback. I hope you both have a wonderful Christmas and smell Bath and Body Works till Christmas comes.
Hey, Tim, we appreciate you. I'm actually repping Bath and Body Works today. I'm wearing it on my body. I got the fragrance. I actually wore the birch one today. Can you smell that? Does it smell
You're
porn?
like Taylor Martinez. You got fragrance throughout your body. Shane, do we have any Taylor Martinez queued up? Because he used to have chills throughout
Tim
his
killed
body.
it with that response, though.
Tim is great. Tim's a guy that I would actually hang out with.
Opposed to
a guy that I wouldn't.
Okay. He's actually a guy I'd hang out with.
What else
I'm
is
like,
it?
well,
What
can
else
you tell me
is
who
there?
you wouldn't hang out with? Like,
A
you
lot.
hang out with a lot of people.
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
You're very open-minded. I think you would.
I am. And even, I don't know. And so here's the cool thing. There's this weird thing about me where you don't even have to really agree with me or like me. If I think you can make me better, I'm probably going to endure.
Just sit down, have a conversation.
Yeah, you and Taylor. Does Taylor Martinez use Bath and Body? What do you think, Shane?
I got chills throughout my body.
Hey, smell my sweatshirt.
No.
Come on. Show the people. Show the people. Just smell it. Just give it a whiff.
I'm glad we won.
You like that? That's the birch eucalyptus fragrance. The body spray.
That's legit.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that we did that, but
it's all right.
I'm secure.
Yeah, I am too.
I mean, but hey, you guys do you.
Anybody else?
That's legit.
Yeah. Bath and Body Works. Oh man, do they have some good fragrances, cologne,
and Tim
smells.
told me to check yesterday to make sure that I am subscribing and getting the
coops.
Yeah, and I actually am. But do you know where else I'm getting them from? Victoria's Secret.
Did you purchase anything from them?
A couple of years ago, but do you know what my jam was?
Did you need a new sexy outfit for yourself? Or?
Fabric softener sheets.
Oh, that's what you got from Victoria's Secret?
Fire! Don't
really?
say,
no, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, like, that's funny to me that is something that.
Full disclosure, that's what
Victoria's
you get with
Secret.
DB. He says some silly things, but I'm authentic. I'm going to keep it 100. Yeah, fabric softener sheets. Unbelievable.
So, and I'm going to sound probably pretty dumb by asking this question, but what is a fabric softener sheet?
So.
Unbelievable.
Probably.
So they're the little white things that you put in the dryer when you want your clothes to either not have static or that smell
okay.
good.
So I use the Bounty dry. They're dryer sheets.
Correct.
Yeah, but
Did I say fabric softener sheets? Well, whatever.
I didn't know. So same thing.
Yeah.
So it was just a different way to address
That's
it.
a big
I just
deal.
wanted to make sure
That's a big deal to me.
that I knew what you were talking about.
I coach a really good player at Westside. And
is his name Caleb?
No, he plays linebacker for us. And we don't much talk about his football prowess. We talk about where his mom gets her cleaning supplies because his jersey always smells good. And he's a tough guy, so it's like you think he kind of stink and be messy. But he's not.
He comes back and he looks like.
And everybody gets a nickname.
He
so I
just
call
got
him,
his first day on the field.
Yeah, so I call him Dr. Smellgood. Right, because it's usually the kid that isn't very good that always has the nice jersey.
You know what? People are probably so critical just by looking at him. But he's probably one of like your like gritty players.
Yeah, he brings
like,
drama. Yeah,
right?
But
he shows up on the field and you're like, that guy doesn't play because his mom knows how to get those grass stains.
And so
out.
it's weird, right? It's like I'm dapping him up in warm-ups. I'm like, hey, Dr. Smellgood. And I always mess with him. I said, when's your mom going to let me know where she gets her cleaning products? He's like, she buys them in bulk at Costco. I was like, all right.
At what point does your linebacker just start wheezing?
I don't know, man. Like
mid-sentence.
I'm different, man. I mean, sometimes I'm talking tackling, sometimes I'm talking fabric softener sheets. But I don't know, man. It's like if so, should coach, and I should know this because I'm in this world. Should coaches be able to like demo and like if Mac wanted to go out there and dunk, he would. If he wanted to play in the post, he would. Does that matter? Like if I'm looking at catch and shooting technique from Coach Hoiberg, I'm pretty sure my man could shoot it, right?
You'd hope.
Do I need that? I'm kind of with Tim though. I prefer that you communicate it to me because I coached with a guy. I would say a pretty bright football mind. Mm-hmm. But I think where we struggled was for him to take what's in his head and get high schoolers to do it as he saw it when things change. I'm like, gosh, there's a lot in there. Like,
as I reflected on it more, communication is key. Over to
you're taking communication.
I'm taking communication.
So you're taking Paul Johnson. You're taking Mike Leach. Mm-hmm. You're taking John Cook.
It's not to say that if you were a former player, you can't do both.
And it's not even about being a former player. I think
it's just doing it.
Just the ability to do it. The ability to do it.
The best example I can think of, and maybe it's poor in some minds, but like Steve Nash, for example. Like he was one of the best to do it on the court.
Yeah.
But man, could he not communicate with some of the best in the world?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to go all isolated examples, right?
No. But,
and I don't think
that's just a pure example that was in my head because it's one of the more recent former players that didn't make it work.
Yeah. And I wonder, is there a certain level that you get to where you better have done it or people aren't listening at all?
But on top of that, talk about maybe if you were say the best at what you were doing, maybe that doesn't translate as well to maybe say a hockey player. You're on the fourth line, right? You're somebody that had to do more with your game. Yeah. You're probably able to communicate the game better than the guy on the top line that's known for scoring.
Maybe.
So I think about that too. If you are a former player, you don't have to be the best. And in fact, I would venture to say you weren't the best, but you would be a better coach than X person.
Maybe the cutoff is professional, right? Because I think people looked at Urban Meyer and Barry Switzer and some of these guys that came over from college to pros, and I think some of the guys in the locker room were probably like, you haven't done this before. You ever watch the Coach Cal documentary on the 30 for 30 about when he got to the Nets? Just how he just didn't have the credibility.
I've never seen the 30 for 30, but
whatever it was, right? Yeah, I think it was a 30 for 30 with Coach Cal. It's fascinating. It is.
I'll go back and watch it. ESPN Plus for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We should have saved this guy. Are we playing the game today?
We're playing the game next, and he played last week, so we might as well let Brian play again.
No, we ought to take his call first.
Well, we got 30 seconds. Okay, let's bring Brian in.
No, we can't. You're the boss. If we're out of time, we're out of time.
Well, let's bring him in. We'll tell him to stay on the line, and then we'll go to break. We'll get his take.
He can hear us. We don't have to.
Can he hear us,
yeah.
or is he listening to some pump-up music as he's on
No,
hold?
Shane will talk to him. He'll just be like, hey, B, hold through the break.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, we'll try to get to him next if he hangs around. But we're going to play two for you next. Give us a call, DB. Toss out the number.
It's 888-638-4876, baby.
Give us a call. We want to play with you. We want to win you some gift cards. It's 2 for you, our Wednesday staple. Let's have some fun on Coffee and Cream in the Morning, powered by Currency.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
And we are back. Coffee and cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB's losing it.
Oh, man. You got to meet this guy. He's nuts, but he's funny.
Nuttier than you?
So remember when we were talking about the eyebrow deal yesterday, and he's like, man, DB, I'll hook you up. Just need some duct tape. And, like, he's crazy, right? So today, my man.
Hey, good eyebrows go a long way.
You know, he's talking about, like, hurting me with, like, duct tape and just, like, parting me down the middle. No, Z, that's not what I'm talking about. But he's at the official Uber driver. He goes, because I could hear him saying it, right? I mean, he's a musclehead, but he's kind of soft-spoken, so it's funny. But he goes, if you're a man, you acknowledge have birthdays, you can't be my friend.
Dang, I agree with that.
Here's the problem with that.
Hey, just imagine another girl. Hey, you're cool and all, but you can't be my friend. Like we're 8 and you don't have good toys.
Which if you are celebrating or acknowledging a half birthday, you probably are 8. Let's get to the phone because Brian gave us a call.
You can't be my friend.
I don't celebrate half birthdays. I was saying that 8-year-olds do. Brian, you're on. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
B, what's up, buddy?
I got the echo fix in the line. I see.
Hey, listen, we
I heard you guys talking about dryer sheets, fabric softeners.
Yes.
Damon, did you break out the old school book on how to use an iron, starch, and all that other stuff with them?
Hey, so I got to tell you this real quick, B. So I'm leaving here. This was probably last week sometime, and we're kind of wrapping up before some of the main staff gets here. So I'm leaving. And one of our staff here is like, "Oh my God, you had a hole." I was like, "What?" And so she kind of like grabbed my shoulder from behind. She's like, "Put your hand right here. You have a hole in your zip up." Brian, do you know that that's the second item that I ironed a hole through because
what?
Yes. So I ruined some shorts a couple of years ago. Remember I told that story? I ironed a hole right in my front quad, and apparently it's such thin material, and I don't like wrinkles, but my dryer has like 68 buttons, so I don't like trying to find the wrinkle-free thing because it takes forever. It goes ding, 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 ding. So I just touched it with the iron, and apparently I put a hole in it. That's what
you need a steamer.
I mentioned that.
I need to grow up.
How to use iron to my girlfriend. She said, "You don't need that. We got a dryer." I was like, "What are you talking about? That's the lazy way out. That is the lazy way out." But hey, what's on my mind today? Like two different things. I watched the electric game last night. I seen LeBron James and AD literally run out of gas with 3 minutes left.
Oh man.
I think LeBron must have aged 10 years in 3 minutes.
It's those terrible uniforms they were wearing. That's what it was.
Whatever it was, it's pretty bad. But my other thing, I'll get off the phone after this. Well, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, as you know. I hate being associated with fans like Skip Bayless. So the things he said, I think that's the little thing with Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
They're thinking about stuff he said in the past to other athletes. No, when you've been an athlete, at professional level, you think about what it is that maybe he's doing wrong he don't get, because I can see he doesn't like when people talk about him or bring out his professional accolades like Jalen Rose did one time with that 1.4 points a game in high school.
He had him in tears. Did we lose B?
Did we lose him?
Oh man.
Man, mid-conversation, I was engaged.
That's my guy. And again, I think people missed the point with the whole Shannon Sharp, Skip Bayless thing, because people had opinions, right? But I think it was the fact that, like, Shannon, thought that was his guy, and he hung him out to dry on national television.
Like a wet T-shirt,
and it wasn't a stick.
Rack.
It wasn't a stick. This big strong guy, I think his feelings were hurt. I just was like, I don't know, right, wrong, or indifferent if you like the guys or don't. I just thought it was interesting that even at that age, like in the moment, people are going to be people, right? Or you just kind of get off script and it gets away from me. But then I had to hear listen, it's Twitter. I shouldn't even complain, man. I know what I'm getting.
Hey, Kim's online too.
Can I just say this about this caller?
Yes.
This is the first time I've had a smile on my face all day.
Is this Kim Kim?
This is Kim Kim.
Oh, well, I'm happy to know that I didn't bring a smile to your face when I showed up.
Kim will like you, too.
Kim, you're online, too. What's going on?
Hello.
My fave. What's up, superstar? How are you?
I am great. I'm so glad I found you.
It's like I Spy.
It's gonna be a little easier here in just a second. So you be real. It's gonna be real easy here in a second.
I'm a little scared for your partner there.
Oh, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm scared for myself.
Kim, you'd like him because you can be like, oh, he's a good-looking guy, blah, 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 we'll take you care of him.
Okay, but first of all, I saw the pizza. What was that thing?
Yeah, that was not good.
Total Sicilian right here.
That was not good. Yeah, I completely screwed up there. Completely.
Could you believe that? Like, what was that, Kim?
Dude, you were given the dough already made.
I know. There's no excuse, Kim.
Do you want to walk him through how to use pre-made quality dough?
No, what I'm going to do is tell him to stop trying.
Ouch. That one stings.
There's no hope there.
No hope?
Where was the sauce?
Yeah, where was the sauce?
Oh, the sauce was on there? It was just hard to find underneath that bread.
No. Well, I'll tell you why I'm worried for him, though.
Why? What'd I do?
I'm afraid you're going to corrupt him.
No, Kim, you don't have to worry about that.
I think there are some times, Kim, he's going to look at me and think, and you've known me forever, so you know I do a lot of, I make a lot of mistakes about life because I'm just kind of learning on the fly. He's probably looking at me like, there's no way this is true. And as you know, every bit of it is true because I need a lot of people to help me out.
I'll hold his hand through it all, Kim.
First of all, you said you would hang with anybody, and that's not true.
No,
you don't like people in general.
That's true. And Andrew was trying to convince me that I would really do it. You'd
give it a try. I thought you'd give it a try.
I don't know. It just depends.
I don't know either.
Kim,
but we'll break. Damon, we'll break Andrew in slowly.
So here's the thing. I'm gonna screenshot you a picture of my iron settings, and I actually think it's kind of confusing.
It's almost as confusing as making a pizza.
Why don't you use a steamer instead?
That's what I said.
I don't know if we have a steamer.
I'll get one. So much easier.
Dude, Amazon, retail in the sky, $25.
Kim, do you work for Amazon?
No, but I just thought of that.
So Kim, we got to get to your J's real quick. Are you concerned? Are you like, Max got this?
Well, you and I both know Max got this.
Okay.
But I have two concerns. I do have concerns. I feel like they don't have a leader, a vocal leader.
Yeah.
I mean, Hawkins really helped them last year.
He must have been the guy.
And I think 4 out of those 5 starters are very quiet. They're not real vocal.
Who do you think's the fifth that gets after it?
I think Sharman's going to have to do something. Sharman has to step up, and I know that's tough but Hawkins did it last year. The other thing is, I really like Mason Miller, and I really want to see him more on the court.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. Kim, it is fantastic to hear from you. Hey, spread the word too, because like I said, it'll be a lot easier here in a second.
Yeah, my sister listens too, so you should say hello to her. She's very happy to have found you.
She was a bigger
too.
fan, so I think I want to side with her, but I talk to you more, so by default it's me and you.
It's always me and you. I mean, come on. And by the way, my boss is still wounded by your what did you call social cadence? Yeah.
Hey, tell him he's still the best. One of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yeah, I know. He hired me. Of course he is.
Oh yeah, go out with a bang,
Thanks,
Kim.
She's fantastic.
Have a happy holidays, gentlemen.
Thanks,
you
Kim.
too.
She's one of the coolest
Bye-bye.
people ever. Her Twitter
Some
handle,
great callers.
Sicilian Stiletto.
No one.
So she's cooked some things for us, and she knows that I'm trying to come around on quality Italian food, and so
which obviously I can't do.
Yeah. Did you look at that dough again? I was mortified that it wasn't even done.
Well, yeah, how can you get that done, though? You know what I'm saying? Because with how thick it became, the more you go, it's going to burn. So, like, I could not get it there. Unless I was going to wait another 2 hours on, like, 150 or however low the oven goes, I don't think I could have done it.
She said something interesting. I sat with Sharif last night, Mitchell, because they didn't get into town until, like, 2 a.m. the night before, right? So he said he got a little sleep, and he came to watch his little brother who plays for Westside. And it was quick, and he it's basically for them, I think, and I'm not like grilling him because that's my guy, and it's disrespectful to just be able to get intel. And then, generally speaking, I think for him, it's about understanding and embracing the challenge of being a good basketball team. Like just coming into their own as, okay, this is my role, this is what I have to do to help us achieve our goals in its totality. I think they're still kind of figuring that part out.
I think that carries over to exactly what you were talking about with Creighton and Kim. It's like they're just still trying to figure out what's going on out there. And
that's what he's
talking about. A lot of times, I think I said this yesterday, and she mentioned Baylor's name. Like,
and Sharif is playing with those guys, so he has. I mean, he knows what they need,
right? And Baylor Shireman, everybody wants him to be that go-to leader, but maybe it's just not him. Maybe it's got to be somebody else. Maybe that's just not his personality to take that pressure on.
Well, we'll see what happens Friday in Marquette.
Coming up next, Brian Christopherson here on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds.
Our next guest understands the way that our minds work.
Yes.
A particular mind. I'm kind of crazy.
Right. You know, we let off with Mike Leach, and maybe we'll get into more of that on Morning Dump, but also other things that we'll talk about. Omaha men's basketball and their win over Midland. Argentina is headed to the World Cup final, and what we think about France and Morocco. And then also we'll talk a little Alexander Ovechkin. He got to 800, plus Carlos Correa gets a contract that is just completely outrageous. But we need to switch gears and talk Husker sports with Brian Christopherson. He's on the line, senior writer for Husker 247.com. Brian, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you doing?
Good. And as you know, we were just talking about how we get totally off topic more often, or too many times, I should say.
BC, I got to start by asking, because I don't think you were married to the idea of a long-term contract, but no way you'd want your Twins to go 13 years, 300-plus mil, would you?
No, that's not the Twins' way. The Twins' way is more like the 2 or 3 year deal for like Robbie Grossman. That's more our speed. So I don't know if you saw though, the Twins apparently offered like 10 years,
10,
for 287
yeah,
or something.
yeah, they did. So at what point? And you're a baseball guy, so I love it. At what point is like double-digit years rolling the dice outside of like maybe Soto? Like, are there any? Like, what are you doing with double-digit years? And I get how contracts read, right? Deferred money, but do you still want to be on the hook?
Yeah, that's too much for me. I think that's going to backfire on the Giants. It's going to be a good run for a couple of years, and then, about 5 years from now, it's going to be one of those contracts that's just a weight around your ankles. That's the way that one's going to feel.
I mean, he'll be 41
no, I
by contract's end.
I understand.
41. That was absolutely insane to me. All right, let's switch gears, Brian, and talk a little Husker football here, because yesterday we found out that there's going to be a reduction in regards to season tickets, which is great for fans. But combine that with the fact that this is a brand new Husker football team. And I think it shows how important it is to Trev to really fill Memorial Stadium to the brim in Rule's first year, and also show, or rather also give fans the opportunity to all witness at least a glimpse of what the future looks like. What about the impact on the players, though? What do you predict the atmosphere will look like in 2023?
I think it's going to be fired up. It usually is for the first year of a new era. And I think there's going to be a lot of excitement to see what tweaks are made in the style of football they play. I think what Trev did was an act of goodwill to the fan base that has stuck with them through a lot of rough years. And it was probably something that's well-deserved for what I think is one of the most loyal fan bases you can find in sport. So if they've stuck with them through all they have the last few years, they're definitely going to be there this next year to see what happens as they start to build this thing. So I think it was a good move by the athletic department. It's going to be well-received, and I think there's going to be a lot of energy by the time we get to that spring game, and there's a lot of new personnel out there and all that stuff. It's going to be kind of exciting.
Hey, BC, a great piece as we're talking to Brian Christopherson from 24/7 Sports. You got a chance to talk to Trev, and he's telling you, the audience out here, that
Listen, there are things that I like. This is about what I expected. They're workers. They're passionate. They pay attention to detail. When you're listening to Trev, and he's setting the expectations for what you think he's going to get from Coach Rule. Were you thinking to yourself, "Oh my gosh, this is so employer-employee lockstep"? Like, it sounds like he's describing who Trev is on the job. Is that good, dangerous? Did you need a little nuance? Like, isn't it weird? It's like they're like kindred spirits.
No, I think you're right, Damon. I thought that at the introductory press conference too. They're kind of looking in the mirror, I think, when they talk. They're both very similar in personality. I think they both have a very similar vision, and they were able to talk that out over the course of probably a month or two while they were working out this deal. And so I think there's already kind of an understanding of the direction they want to go. There are going to be twists and turns along the way, but I do think they're on the same path. And that's something Matt Rule really stressed at his opening press conference. He made a big deal about how you've got to have that leadership where you feel like they've got your back. You understand what they're about, they understand what you're about, and there's not going to be a lot of surprises. And so that, as you know, Damon, that's a huge part of having success. You've got to have that from the top down where you're kind of you're looking the same direction at least, and sometimes you're going to disagree, but you know that you've got the same goal at heart and the same sort of you're on the same path. And I think that these two, they feel that way right now.
Brian, I've spoken to a lot of Husker fans over the past week, and they all kind of say the same thing. They're anxiously waiting for Rule and his staff to make a big splash. What is your recommendation for them? Is it the give it time attitude, or are you saying you may not see one given how Matt Rule likes to recruit?
I'd say give it a little time. I think they're going to have some pretty big gets here still before this cycle's over. I think you got to look at some of the line guys. I think Cameron Lenhart and Princewell, the edge rusher down in Maynard, Texas, and Elijah Duty could be in play. I think they might flip that tight end, Andrew Metzger from Colorado, who decommitted last night. I don't know if he's considered a big splash, but it's kind of fun to go take one of the guys that Dion just offered, you know. So I think that could work out. So there are some guys who I think are going to get people pretty excited in this next week. But for those who need a little more than that, I would say, yeah, it's going to be kind of a steady stroll with Matt Rule. He's not going to try to get it all back with one player. He said that at his opening press conference, too. This isn't just about one guy. It's got to be about a bunch of people working together for the same cause. So this is just the first bricks of the building that are being put together. So people got to always remember that.
Yeah, and I get it. I like the little caveat, BC, because I even have to catch myself, right? Because I'm kind of getting a chance to know this staff, even the individuals, whether it was junior day or those guys out on the recruiting trail. And it's kind of scary, but given your temperament of being super level-headed, help me couch this where I'm listening to Coach Satterfield and Coach Foley and Coop talk about the familiarity and how they know how to do this. And, you know, Coach Satterfield said, hey, while I'm doing this, this, and this, I know that Coach Rule is taking care of this, this, and this. Then he can trust that we're doing, and he fill in the blanks. And it's like, wow, there's some comfort in knowing that there's know-how, but I have to always tell myself that doesn't guarantee success. I just feel good that there's a plan. How much of that should we rest in?
Yeah, I think that's where your hope is. It's that he's compiled a staff that really knows from past experience with him exactly how he operates. They've been through this a little bit before building at Baylor, some of these same exact guys. And that was rubble at Baylor, what they took over. People have to remember that. They had like 45 scholarship guys and one person in that class when Matt Rule took over. So what he's looking at right now isn't going to scare them off. that there's no guarantees, as you say. They're going to have to work really hard, but they do know what to expect from one another because he's hired, for the most part, guys that he's seen in action. He's seen that how their personalities work, how they might be able to recruit to certain guys, what their areas of strength are recruiting. So all that stuff is knowledge that's been built up, and you're kind of banking that it's going to pay off over time. And it's also going to help you out in kind of a very difficult, chaotic December where you're really running around with your hair on fire, which is what they're doing. But I think there's at least organized chaos, as I would describe it. It feels like over there, and that's a very good thing.
We're speaking with Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker247.com. You can toss him a follow at Husker247BC on Twitter. Brian, Trev noted yesterday that Matt Rule has taken a unique approach when it comes to applying NIL. Any idea what that looks like yet and how it could possibly impact, or rather positively impact the recruiting process?
I don't know for sure. I kind of go back to his introduction press conference again when he said, not that you won't use NIL to lure some guys from the portal, but I think he wants guys to earn it too. I think there's going to be a feeling that you're not just owed something for no reason, that you're going to want to play for the University of Nebraska, and that's your biggest thing. Like, it's about being a Husker. The NIL part is something that comes with that. It's attached to it, and it's a bonus. But you really got to want to be about the program first and foremost and that type of guy. So I think that's who they're kind of looking for, and they'll use the NIL with those type of players, but they want a certain mindset with guys, that they're very team-oriented and not the type of guys where it's going to be all about just chasing NIL monies or opportunities, and you get really distracted, and it kind of messes with your locker room. So I think that's sort of his vision in general, at least the way he explained it at his press conference the first day. But it's going to be interesting to take a deeper dive into that and see exactly what that means and what that entails. But that was sort of what I got out of it listening to him the first day.
BC, so this was the morning after the Raiola announcement was made, and we were on air, and I continued it in Morning Dump. I kind of went all in on there's this part of me just in getting the little parts of Coach Rule that I've been able to glean over the last 3 weeks and his staff. There's something about him, because you've heard me say this for years, right? Coaches coach coordinators coach position coaches coach players. I think that's a healthy hierarchy. There's something about Coach Rule and his energy where he enjoys coaching and modeling for his staff. Like, I think that's a big deal. And I think that's how he's kind of picking his staff. How important do you think that is versus, okay, DB, that's all fine and good, but we need some guys with some experience too? Like, how are you kind of buoying or balancing the pros and cons there?
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot there. I think his history has shown that he's I wouldn't say take a chance, but he's trusted some young guys that he's kind of watched for a few years in different roles that he thinks are now ready to be full-time assistant coaches. Like Terrence Knighton is a good example of that. He's been around him for a couple years at Carolina, where he got to watch him sort of in an assistant role, and I think was impressed by just the way he taught and the way he communicated, and he thought, that's a guy who's going to succeed. He has the base tools to communicate to players what he wants and how to teach the technique of the position. I'm going to trust my instincts here that this guy's ready for this job. So he's got a few hires like that, but he also has guys like Ed Foley, who's a special teams coordinator, who's, in his mid-50s, and he's been around a long time and done a lot of different things and held a lot of different roles. So I think there's a pretty good balance on this staff of guys who have held pretty significant roles before, and also those guys that Matt Rule's probably had 3 or 4 years to kind of look at in a different role, and he says they're ready now. And I think Terrence Knighton, we'll see how he does as a coach on the field, but I know he's communicated very well with recruits and been a big hit so far on the trail. So that part, at least the initial impression, is a good one.
Hey, shifting gears here, despite recent outcomes, the Nebraska men's basketball team has looked comfortable and balanced on the floor. Why do you think it has been so easy for them to click so early on? And can the Creighton win be the biggest contributor to that?
Well, Matt Painter kind of said it in 2 words. They defend. It's the difference from last year. It's a team that I think really buys in on that side of the floor. They enjoy playing defense, and they play it with some tenacity. They really scramble around and kind of makes up for some of their shortcomings, which they do have on the offensive end, and you can see it sometimes in little droughts that still pop up. But I think they're a pretty tough team mentally. I think that's kind of built off of having some super senior type guys who have been around the block, your Sam Grisels, your Emmanuel Bandimos. They're just not easily flustered. And that's what Fred Hoiberg hoped they would be when he brought in those guys. And I think so far he's kind of got what he wanted. Now, this is a big game Saturday. They need to cash one in against Kansas State in Kansas City. If they could get that, they have one after that where they should get to 8-5 going into the rest of Big Ten, and then you take your chances and you hope your defense can be portable during the league and help you make a run. But I think they need to get one this Saturday to continue to boost confidence and kind of position themselves record-wise where they'll have some opportunities in Big Ten play to at least have a shot at maybe an NIT if you went like 8-12 or something like that in the league.
Hey, BC, I've asked you kind of in a roundabout way with some other dynamics within the athletic department, but I look at what's going on with Nebraska volleyball, and Coach Cook is going to have to kind of reset and kind of recalibrate, going to have some new faces, and the mantle or the he's kind of passing the torch to a next group. Nebraska football going through another transition. Nebraska basketball maybe on a momentum uptick, given the caveat of what you said, a key, game this weekend to kind of build momentum. And within the athletic department, when you put it with softball and soccer and all the other sports, women's basketball is off to a good start. Can, in your opinion, as you've watched this athletic department for so long, do you feel good about the leadership with the staffs that are in place that a rising tide can lift all boats?
I feel a lot better since Trev took over. And I don't want to kiss up or sound like to suck up in class. I just am impressed with them.
Well, that's why I asked you, because you're so like you play it. You're not a all in and emotional, warm, fuzzy guy. So I think that's why you're the good guy to ask.
Well, I can be warm and fuzzy, Damon. Don't say that. No, I appreciate it. I'll take what the compliment was there. Yeah. Always take a compliment my mom told me.
Well, maybe it was my mom. She likes you too.
I didn't mean to break moms.
Oh, go ahead, BC.
I think Trev's got a way about him where you just feel like it's a steady hand. I don't know if he's just so good at answering questions. Maybe that's part of it, but I was impressed with sort of how he was able to keep the coaching search under covers. I mean, there wasn't a lot of information that really came out of that. And I thought that was a very steady process where he got done exactly what he wanted to get done. And I think when you hear him talk, he says stuff that matters to the fan base in interviews. But there's a level approach there, and there's an understanding that it's going to take a lot of elbow grease to get Husker Athletics to where it needs to be. So I like the fact that he talks about the future he doesn't dwell too much in the past, and he has said that many times, like, we can't get caught up always talking about the 90s around here and this and that. And I like that he also says stuff about, like, the volleyball program, like, let's not take this for granted. I mean, yes, they got knocked out in the Sweet 16, and that is a bummer for how good they are, but they're still a top 10 program. And we did this with football a couple decades ago where we didn't appreciate maybe how great they were, and then we long for those days when they're gone. So I think people got to remember that with volleyball, even in a season like this where it doesn't go quite how you want it to.
BC,
but I like how
ahead.
Trev talks about all these different sports and just kind of keep his eye looking ahead and not always about what happened yesterday. And that's the way it's got to be over there.
BC, what do I make of this? I'm going to get you out of this just because I know firsthand because they're our guys, so I know the impact that this staff has had in a short amount of time. You know, Jalen Lloyd goes from a top 4 and an announcement 3 weeks ago to a top 5 and kind of waiting. I know how his parents feel about the impact that this staff has had in recruiting Jalen Lloyd. Tristan Alvano is being coveted all over the country in Nebraska. It has made such an impact on him. And so I know that's working as well. When you look at what they've been able to do relationally in such a short amount of time, do you have kind of a reason why or some keys why they've been able to hit the ground running in terms of building relationships so quickly?
I have to think that Matt Rule and Trev Alberts had some discussions leading up to this, but even before he's hired, maybe. You've got to hit in-state hard right off the bat. We've got to build that back up, and it feels like that has just been the real focus of Matt Rule, and I think it has really impressed guys. I know Tristan Alvano. I talked with him the other day for a story, and he just brought up all the places Matt Rule has been in the state and how it really stuck out to him. And he was a kid, a Nebraska kid. This is his words, not mine. He felt disrespected by the last staff. He just didn't feel like I'm talking the old staff before Mickey. Mickey offered him. But before that, they didn't pay him any attention. And he was kind of like, well, I guess that's not going to happen. And now it's very much in play because Matt Rule and this staff immediately said, you guys locally are a priority. We're going to show it. We're going to send our head coach everywhere in the state the first 5 days when he could be anywhere else in the country, but he's in Nebraska. And so I think that means a lot to kids. They don't miss that. And it could play a factor here in some of their decisions. I think it will.
Brian Christopherson, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk again soon.
Yep, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, BC.
That is Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker247.com. He brought up a great point at the end there, DB. Mending relationships is a key to Matt Rule's success so early on.
Yeah, so full disclosure, like even just the impacts that he's been able to make where, you know, 2 weeks ago it was, you know, we want to go to Gretna and they won't even speak with us. Last weekend it was, okay, we'll take a call, right? So, and I'm not saying, hey, you know, I'm definitely not saying, hey, Zane in Nebraska, because I'm not. I think he's committed to Oklahoma State. What I'm saying is that's just another example of folks kind of staying with it, believing. I mean, Coach Rule used the term heartbroken over what's transpired with Flores since his high school career in the state of Nebraska. You don't hear that a ton. It breaks my heart. You know what I mean? Like, so that lets me know, okay, there's going to be some serious relationship building that's going on that I think the folks in this state and recruits in general across the country need to know, because it's very volatile with movement and getting able to do what you want to do and go where you want to go. Where feeling like you're with family can be the ultimate trump card to get folks to settle in at Nebraska.
Great point. We'll talk to Jim Polzin next. He covers all things Wisconsin.
Rogers and Benning. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning with Andrew Rogers and ODB. That's me. Hey, you need tickets or have tickets but can't go? Red Zone Tickets buys and sells tickets for all types of events. That's events like Morgan Wallen, NCAA Volleyball Final Four. There's Creighton basketball, Husker basketball, Mannheim Steamroller, UNO hockey, and more. What about the NFL? Chiefs, Vikings, Dallas Cowboys, or maybe if you're like our next guest, the Packers. Well, Red Zone Tickets, they got a wide variety of NFL tickets at many price points. Red Zone Tickets is located in Omaha, reliable, local source, and much like combined GPAs for Andrew Rogers and I, they have a A+ Better Business rating. Visit RedZoneTickets.com. That's RedZoneTickets.com today.
Jim Polzin on the line. He covers all things Badgers, Wisconsin. DB mentioned it, even the Packers. You can toss him a follow at Jim Polzin WSJ on Twitter. Jim, thanks so much for joining the show. Excuse me. How are you doing today?
Jim, good to talk to you again.
Yeah, good, guys. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Hey, let's start here with Wisconsin. The men's basketball team has been on the rise over the last 2 weeks. They went from unranked to ranked 22 in the nation in the AP polls, and they have wins against Maryland and Iowa to help them get there. Now, that makes 6 Big Ten teams in the top 25. Would you say the Big Ten is the toughest conference to play in this year?
That's a good question. I get so wrapped up in just the Big Ten that sometimes I don't spend a lot of time looking around to other conferences. They went head-to-head with the ACC in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. I think the ACC won that, so I'm a little hesitant to declare the Big Ten the best. But I will say, and I feel like I say this every year, it's really, really good, and it's really, really good top to bottom. Like you even look at your guys at Nebraska, that's a really good team, and if that's one of your bottom half teams, that just speaks to how good this league is.
Jim, how do you think Wisconsin wants to play? We know what the style, or I hate the word narrative, but like kind of what the story is on how Wisconsin wants to play offensively. But you got a couple guys that can score the basketball. I know offensively, it's always kind of been a thing when it comes to their recruiting. What does Wisconsin look like when they're playing well with this particular group?
I would say there's been a shift the last 2 to 3 years of they're playing a little faster. Now, when I say that, we're not talking UNLV or Loyola Marymount from the 80s and 90s. But for this program, it's typically, if you look at Ken Pop's numbers, they've typically been very low in tempo, like one of the slower, quote-unquote, teams in the country. Last year, they were in like the 200s, which for this program is, pretty remarkable. They've gone down a little bit this year. But I guess the point is that in the recruiting world, they're actually selling that, hey, come here, we're going to play a little faster. They've got a point guard in Chucky Hepburn who they trust and to make good decisions in transition. You're going to see more three-pointers being thrown up in transition than you probably have in the past. So it's a little different, but by no means is this a program that's going to run with you. They're going to, what they've always done, what they've done for 25 years is take good shots. And whether that comes in the first 10 seconds of the shot clock or the last 5 seconds, they're going to try to find the best shot.
Jim, it's interesting. Chucky, he's great. His father and I, great family friends. He grew up right here. Our kids played together, so we obviously follow him closely. Level of surprise that he's shooting it so much better from three in general, but then so much better from three than from 2-point. And how do you like his offensive evolution, as you knew he was a defensive stopper and a really good floor general?
Yeah, I mean, he started off really slow this season.
Yes,
and
he did.
Been just red hot lately, and this team needs that. I mean, if this team was going to be good, if it was going to hit its ceiling, they need Chucky Hepburn to be good. And I think he knew that. I think coming this season, one of the big keys was how do you replace Johnny Davis, and one of the answers to that is Chucky Hepburn and his growth. And so I think he's done a great job. I think he can be better even still. I think he's going to progress over these next couple months and couple years, and I think he's got a chance to be a real star here at Wisconsin. And I think he embraces that. I think the one thing, too, is his leadership skills are tremendous. Even last year as a freshman they were, and I think they've taken a step this year.
How does he complement Tyler Wall, who I think the kids call it swag. He's got a little bit of – I like his confidence. I just like his style of play in terms of what he believes in. And yet another guy from Minnesota that state couldn't keep that other schools are benefiting from, like Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about Tyler, and I told Tyler this at Media Day back in, I think it was September, when he was a freshman here, and I was a beat writer still at that time. I moved into a columnist role now, but we couldn't get him to say more than 3 words. Like he would come in a group interview, and it would it'd be 1 or 2 word answers, and maybe once or twice we'd get a 2-sentence answer. But he's kind of come out of his shell the last couple of years, and I think it's come out of his shell on the court too. He's been a guy that just plays with confidence, and waving goodbye to Iowa fans the other night was a little bit out of character, I think, but it shows his confidence and leadership and swag, like you said. And they need that again. Like, losing Johnny Davis was a huge, huge thing, and they need other guys to step up and embrace that role of being leaders and energy guys. And Tyler Wall has certainly done that this year.
We're speaking with Jim Polzin at Jim Polzin WSJ on Twitter. Jim, just 3 weeks ago, this team took on Marquette, and I started with a question about the team that made their way into the top 25, which was the Wisconsin Badgers. And how about now a team that's dropped out of the top 25, the Creighton Blue Jays? Now, Creighton has Marquette on deck, and Blue Jay fans are antsy for a win. But can it come against the Golden Eagles? I mean, this is a game. This is a game that went to overtime for the Badgers just 3 weeks ago. How impressed are you by Marquette, and what do they do well as a group?
Yeah, so that was a surprising result as far as I was concerned, because Marquette had beaten Baylor pretty badly 4 days earlier, and Wisconsin had lost at home to Wake Forest. So I fully expected to go into the Fiserv Forum that day and write about a Marquette victory. And then Wisconsin just kind of played out of their mind. Chucky Hepburn in particular played out of his mind in the first half, and they won that game. I think it's a team that's still forming a little bit of identity under Shaka Smart. I don't think he's got all the pieces he wants, but Cam Jones was really, really good against Wisconsin. They've got a bunch of athletes. David Joplin's a kid from in-state here that I think Wisconsin looked at one point, but he went to Texas and now is back at Marquette. So they're getting there. I personally, I'm a big fan of Shaka. I think he's a tremendous human being, and I think he's got a system that he operates with conviction, and I think they're going to get there. I'm not sure I think they're going to be like a lot of teams in the country right now where you just can't trust them night to night. They're a little bit up and down, a little bit roller coaster. So it's going to depend on what team shows up against Creighton, but I think that's a really good team. Potentially down the road, a couple of years, I think that's a really good program.
Jim, what a lot of folks want to hear around here is we transition to football real quick. Just with what happened late with Coach Fickell, kind of came on the market. I know there were a couple of schools he was looking at, Wisconsin, for a while. Then the whole Jim Leonard saga. As you're transitioning, a couple years removed from Barry Alvarez, kind of the unceremonious or Wisconsin way with Chris to Leonard. Now Leonard says he's leaving, but he'll coach the bowl game. What do you see as kind of the stability in the program that was one of the kings of stability since for the last 20 years in the conference? Like, where do you see the trajectory in terms of how the dynamics have played out?
Yeah, this is a great question, because you really hit on a couple key words there, stability being one of them. It's just this program's been a picture of consistency and continuity for so many years. And now it's this change, and I don't know how to describe it even. I think it's necessary to some degree. I wrote that the night that Fickell was hired.
Yeah.
There's been times over the last 2 months where I kind of wondered whether Chris McIntosh should just blow this whole thing up and start over. And I never wrote that because part of me thought that Jim Leonard could be that guy that could do that to some degree, that he knew that there were problems in recruiting and certainly on offense, and he could be the guy that kind of pushed that button and created change. And I never at one point during this 2-month search thought that Luke Fickell was an option. I didn't even consider it. I thought Luke Fickell had so many better options, or different options.
You and 80% of the general public. I mean, what a shocker.
Right. So, I mean, I guess had I considered Luke Fickell as a candidate, I might have endorsed him early, but didn't consider it. But like I wrote, I think if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna blow this thing up, I think he's a great choice, because I think he's got a little bit of Wisconsin roots in terms of development and building from the high school ranks and going on defense and running the ball. but I think he's willing to take some chances. And, you know, the key phrase around these parts lately is air raid offense, which blows my mind that Wisconsin's going to try that, and yet I'm fascinated to see what happens with it.
Jim Polzin, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Coming up next, Creighton basketball. Joel Lorenzi's back today. He's on.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
King on the load. Buckle up. 10-0 run for the Jays. Oh, almost another turnover. It is.
Don't need a three in this possession. Get downhill.
One timeout left. Griesel looking for help. Tominaga. Tie game.
Back with you, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. And now let's talk a little Creighton basketball. We tried to get to Joel yesterday, but Joel had the luxury of dealing with the
baby.
TSA agents at the Vegas airport. But we're welcoming him back onto the show today. We'll get him back on Tuesdays normally. But Joel, welcome back to Omaha. How was the trip outside of the fact that you came back with 2 losses?
Yeah, let me tell y'all, man. I don't got a ton of enemies, but TSA and Vegas they got to see me next time I go. 'Cause, man, like I feel really bad. I like talking to you guys, and I tried to really make that work yesterday. And then the day before, I was supposed to get on 16:20, and that time difference was so crazy. I'm not a morning person, admittedly. Most people know that, but. You know, I woke up at 8 like a good citizen that day, and realized I missed my slot by like an hour or whatever it was because the 2-hour difference. So, man, the Vegas time difference was killing me. All the NBA games were done before the sun went down. Like, it was just a crazy scene.
Hey, let me get this out of the way real quick since you mentioned NBA and I never get to talk it even though I love it. I got 4 guys for you: Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Slot those mid-range guys for me.
Oh, mid-range guys.
You got to take Tatum 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Hands down.
They're Kobe disciples. I know. Listen, Joel, this is your floor. You love the NBA. I'm just listening.
Tatum's a St. Louis guy. That's why I said number
You're
1
a hater.
for sure.
I think D-Book has to be 1 for me, just the way he's done it longer. I think JT 2, Shai Gilgeous 3, and then JB 4. And I got a lot of love for JB. Shai Gilgeous, I can't think of – I mean, Shai Gilgeous got a higher usage rate. I can't think of who actually spends more time in the mid-range between him and Jaylen Brown. But it feels like Shai Gilgeous is just more effective there. But I will say, like, Jaylen Brown, I would have to see the numbers. But Shai Gilgeous is just so effective once he gets a paint touch. So that's why he's ahead of him for me. But, yeah, top 2 are D-Book and JT for me.
Are you moving Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the deadline with that contract looming?
If I'm the Thunder?
Yeah.
No. The season he's had, dude is a clear franchise player.
You got some guys you're going to have to pay, though.
Yeah, I think, they got some decisions to make, but I think people got to remember, like, they got some pieces still.
A lot.
I don't know their record right now, but they haven't even had a game where they played Chet Holmgren.
Yep.
I'm sure they won't get the worst pick in this draft, which is a pretty loaded draft upcoming. They got some decisions to make, but they're not in the worst spot, and they got still got a heap of picks. So
they fleeced the NBA for those picks. All right, let's talk Creighton. I sat with Sharif Mitchell last night. We were together watching. He was watching his little brother. I was watching my kid play at Westside, and he was interesting, because he talked about kind of them evolving into a team that understands roles with pressure of needing to be successful, how it's different being in the locker room than just us in the media saying, hey, man, you need a leader, right? There's obviously something to that, right, as you watch this team kind of find their way?
Yeah, and I think the understanding roles is probably important on a team where you got so many on-ball creators or guys that are capable of being initiators. But that's something we knew before the season. I think you kind of mentioned it. What this team has struggled with during its recent stretch is you look around and there is no clear leader. There is no singular person that is going to put their foot down and rally the team like I guess you really had in Ryan Hawkins last year. And so that's a problem in the early season, especially with a schedule like they played. I mean, they played one of the tougher stretches in all of college basketball. I don't think it's far-fetched. I mean, clearly Mac believes this more than anyone, but I don't think it's far-fetched for them to have some success in terms of vocality and leadership as a committee. I mean, that's what he's preached all year. But I think it would have been super difficult to happen this early. I don't know the degree of success they have behind it, but I think it's possible down the line. But you're kind of seeing some of that manifest now, I think.
Joel, you talk leaders, but who is that leader? Who needs to be that leader? Because a lot of people out there want it to be Shireman so badly, but is it him? I mean, you're around this team as much as anyone. Who can it be? Who should it be?
Yeah, the Farabello was the name that was tossed around in the summer by Mac.
Because he was such a good shooter.
Yeah, and I got to imagine it's hard for him because he hasn't had nearly the season that he was projected to have. I mean, he came in as a 40+% three-point shooter, and he hasn't. I mean, he's had like half that kind of season. So I gotta imagine he's dealing with his own stuff. But yeah, he now the conversation shifted to where he could be one of the guys who's most vocal, but he can't be the guy, I don't think. And so you look around, and I don't know. I know people are lobbing Baylor up as a name just because he's older and he's played a lot of college basketball, but I don't think he's too far ahead of the rest of the guys. I think, frankly, you look around in terms of maturity for their age, because they obviously do a lot of their core is younger. I think Ryan Nembhard stands out in terms of maturity, and I don't know if it'll happen this year or by next year, but I think Ryan Nembhard should be being looked to as that guy. Obviously, he's not ready, I don't think, but he's way more mature than I think a lot of sophomores are. So if I was on the outside looking in, I would think it would be him, frankly.
It's cool to hear and Sharif say, like, that's his guy, right? I think he's exceptionally close with Nembhard, and they play the same position, and it can be at your expense, and I think that's when real running can happen. So I don't think it's necessarily a chemistry issue like would be the low-hanging fruit to pick with this team, Joel, because I think there is a level of understanding. But let me ask you this, because people talk about shooting and behind the arc, three-point, and currently at about 34-ish% shooting. And I was talking to my buddy Jacob Padilla yesterday. I think it's bigger than just the bottom line of what they do from behind the arc. It seems like the shot selection and the misses happen kind of when games are in the balance or in crunch time, where it's like, wow, that's not how I'm accustomed to seeing Creighton play. How much of it can be condensed down to just how you play when it's nut-cutting time versus the regular course of the game flow?
Not sure. I do think that over the course of the game, before clutch time comes around, they do, like you've seen some of these losses, and obviously the last couple are different without Kalkbrenner. I think those are both obvious wins with Kalkbrenner because obviously they were decided by one final possession. But with some of these other losses, and you just kind of saw throughout the course of the last two, their floor. There's a gamble that they have in their play style and relying so much on shot making because they do got so many guys that are supposed to be, some of the better shot makers around. And when they're not on, it's hell for them, man. And it's not like they have the defense they had last year that could carry them along the way on the other end when the shots weren't falling, which is something they have to pick up. But so I think through the course of a game, like, momentum is a real thing. And this is a team that outside of last game, because they played a way different second half than they did first half last game.
Shot it a lot better.
Yeah, and this team really, hasn't done that all season to my knowledge, when I watch. It feels like they like to replicate halves in terms of shooting and whatnot. So in terms of momentum, if they start out flat, you won't see a ton of that, barring the last 2 minutes when Baylor Sharman tends to hit 3 threes in the last 30 seconds to bring him.
He's been clutch his whole life.
So.
He's really that dude. Like he's just a winner.
Yeah, it's been too little, too late this year though in a few games.
Hey, Joel, before we let you go, I want to get to our poll question here, and I want to ask Joel. Joel, do you know of any kids, whether it's in your family or, that just kind of you surround yourself, acknowledge half birthdays?
No.
Exactly.
Man, no. That is such a spoiled idea. That is crazy. We barely celebrate birthdays. You talking about half birthdays, man.
Told you. Listen,
you didn't have to tell me anything. I kind of knew
for whatever the reason, I knew we would be in lockstep, Joel. I'll let you figure out why.
Oh, man.
Hey, a great exit.
Hey, I'm wild, Joel. You got to watch me, man. You'll figure that out the longer you're here. You got to watch me with both eyes.
Hear you, dog.
Hey, take it easy, Joel.
With it, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Y'all too, man.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, the poll results, too. 91.3% said no.
He said no.
No. Hey, if you missed anything, catch us on the Pod Morning Dump. We have a lot more to talk about. You'll see us there.